I'm Frances Clynes, and I've been an astrologer since 1987. I started in a beginner's class in the now defunct Irish Astrological Association back then. I had read a book on astrology by Russell Grant, a popular sun sign book, and in that I discovered that there was more than just the signs, or what I call the star signs. I discovered there were planets and signs, and there was a whole load of stuff I didn't know. So I was living in America at that time, and I came home purposely to learn astrology. I don't know why I didn't think I could learn it over there, but I came home, went to the Irish Astrological Association, and within 2 years I had a certificate from the faculty, and I was teaching in the IAA, and I've been an astrologer ever since. The Irish Astrological Association ceased to be, I think it was around 2001, 2002, and at that stage I became involved in astrology in the UK. There wasn't the same amount of internet astrology that there is now, so as an astrologer I needed a home to go to. I started my diploma with the Faculty of Astrological Studies. I started going to AA conferences, became a member, and while I was there I discovered the MA in Cultural Astronomy and Astrology, which was in Spa at the time, and in 2005 I started doing that. So at this stage I'm now a tutor on the MA in Cultural Astronomy and Astrology, which is now in Lampeter in Wales. I'm a tutor with the faculty and the writing manager, and I'm on the board of the AA, so I definitely stuck with it.
This must keep you very busy, I imagine.
Yeah, incredibly so. And I mean, I have a full-time job in Ireland as well, and a life over here too. So yeah. Maybe not everything gets done as well as I'd like it to, because there's just so much. So one day soon I'm going to have to, I think, make some choices, but for the moment I'm loving all of it.
I can imagine. I know that you're super busy, but do you have an area of specialization in astrology?
Not as regards techniques or any particular type of astrology, but I would say I'm a better teacher than I am a practitioner. I'm often reminded of, that old expression, those who can do and those who can't teach. I love teaching. It's my full-time job as a teacher, and I've taught since 1989, and when I started teaching in astrology I've always been a teacher in some things. So at the moment I'm teaching in 3 separate places, with my full-time job, the MA and the faculty, and I'd have to say that's what I do best. So it's the area I want to stay with. I mean, I do practice quite a bit. Obviously you can't teach unless you're doing something. So yeah, in addition to research, I do practice a bit as well, but I'm more a teacher than a consultant.
Okay. And what do clients come to you for when you do see them?
I don't have that many clients at the moment, and the only people I see now are clients who've been with me for a long time. So it's mostly an up-to-date. Like, I don't let them come more than once a year, because I don't think I can. I don't think I've that. If they come every week, every month, I don't think I have something new to tell them each time. So they come to me once a year, and we'll do their progressions, transits, solar return for the coming year.
Okay.
I tend to favour the basics: the planets, the signs and houses, and progressions, directions, transits, and forecasting. I don't use asteroids, hypothetical planets, black moons. I think there's more than enough in the basics, so I stick with those.
Yeah. What books do you like to recommend to your students?
Oh, I stick with the favourites. Liz Green is probably the person I recommend most, because for me she's the supreme. To me, in my view, there's never been anyone like her, and I think it'll be a long time before we have her equal again. So every student I ever had gets recommended books by Liz Green. But I mean, there's some other excellent astrologers out there. I like Sue Tompkins' books as well. I love the way she approaches the aspects particularly. I recommend Skyscript as a website. I think it's probably the best astrological website out there. They're the only ones I can think of at the moment. The faculty has a reading list, so obviously my faculty students, I would point them to anybody on that. Once it's on the faculty reading list, I'd have confidence in it.
I hear that you also completed a PhD.
I did. I graduated last year in Lampeter, finished it in 2015, and then Viva, all the works that was finished, and I graduated last year.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
Quite an achievement.
Yeah. Oh, that's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. It's a huge chunk out of your life. Like, it took me 8 years in total because I had to defer for a year in between for domestic reasons. But yeah, it's with you the whole time. You don't know a peaceful moment while it's going on. Well, that's the way it was for me. Some people sail through it a lot easier. Yeah.
And what was it on? What did you choose?
The use of the internet by astrologers.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it was obviously, like with the Sophia Centre, there has to be a cosmological, cultural flavour to it. So yeah, I started off with questionnaires in 2009 in one of the ISA, one of the big American conferences, and then the faculty summer school in the UK and the AA conference in the UK. And I was going to build on that with qualitative interviews, but however, within a year or two, there was the explosion of social media, of Facebook groups, and everything changed. Everything, just what I'd done up at that point was no longer enough, so I had to do another set of questionnaires and another set of interviews. But yeah, it was actually for the better, because what I now have was a complete set of like before and after figures with social media. This is what we had before, and now this is what people are saying. That it meant I was in a position to quite clearly see what astrologers believe are the big differences that social media has brought to astrology and the internet in general, of course.
And where do you see astrology going with the social media and the explosion globally of this interest for mostly star sign, sun sign astrology?
Yeah. One of the main concerns from almost every astrologer I spoke to, like, they were all professional astrologers. I interviewed 65 professional astrologers from both the UK, both Europe, not just the UK, and America. But the biggest concern they all had was the trivialization of astrology, this superficial nature of a lot of the internet astrology, and the poor quality of some of it. So many of them gave me examples of people who'd come to them really upset because of something they'd read, or because of a consultation they had with someone who taught themselves via the internet. And I mean, I heard some horror stories, like about forecasting death and really horrendous stuff. So that's a great concern for most of the astrologers I spoke to. But they also saw a very positive side to the internet in the sharing of information when it's good quality information. And most of them felt that sooner or later the dedicated student would be able to separate what to keep and separate what to let go of. And a lot of people from the various astrological schools have felt that the internet has brought them more people, but that sooner or later the dedicated astrologer will come to the schools. They will seek to learn the better quality astrology, let's say, than what's on the internet. Now, also, what the explosion of social media has brought about is a vast number of astrological communities online, both in the individual groups and just people befriending other astrologers online. And the big plus of that is not just the sharing of information and the whole social element to it, but that people who live either in isolated areas or in areas where they can't come out as an astrologer, they are no longer isolated. They now can speak astrology every day. And this was a bigger issue than I had previously thought it would be. There were some people in the UK, I know one person from a remote Scottish island spoke to me, and people in different parts who maybe they just don't have a local astrology group within travelling distance. But in the United States, I had quite a few people, not the professional astrologers obviously, but quite a few of my questionnaire respondents who lived in areas that were strongly Christian, and they were afraid to let their views be known. So it's provided a bigger service than I had realized in that.
Yeah. In your experience as a professional astrology speaker, for example, do you notice any major differences or trends that differ across the pond, as far as you can see?
Well, they pay their speakers a lot better in America. They have, obviously, they're in a better way financially than we are this side of the Atlantic. It's not that we wouldn't do it. It's just we possibly wouldn't be able to survive if we were able to pay this. If we had to pay the speakers what they paid American conferences. Yeah, I must say, American conferences are lovely. You know, you get your hotel room for a couple of nights. You get paid a piece of cash as well, and yeah, in general they do treat astrologers quite well over there, and there's more money there, it's quite clear. You know, it's usually a very nice hotel as well.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but having said that, you know, here in the UK we've a lovely white Boston, and we're moving to Wokefield Hall now next year, at least for next year's conference. It's quite spectacular, quite gorgeous. So
Will you be speaking at this year's conference?
not this year, I am next year. Next year, 2018, as you know, is our 60th anniversary conference, so it's a big one. And yes, I'm speaking on an Irish heroine, Countess Markovich, so you'll have to come to that.
I definitely will. So the theme for this year's annual conference is the importance of astrology. I was wondering if you have, or if you could give us what your opinion on that. What is important about astrology, especially in today's world?
Well, for me, I find it connects me to the rest of the cosmos. It makes me feel, and it always has right from the beginning, it always made me feel that I was part of the natural cycles of nature, both in the cycles that are part of what happens on this planet and are quite obviously part of the greater cosmos out there, and it links me into them.
Oh, wow.
I started off astrology because I wanted to learn about myself. I wanted answers to why certain things happened in my life, or why certain things didn't happen in my life, or how did, you know, I externalized a lot of it, and astrology taught me my part in it, and it still does. You know, I mean, I'm still a student of astrology.
And is there anything that you would like to see change in astrology?
Well, in an ideal world, I'd like less persecution of astrologers by certain fundamentalists, scientists, not so much religious people, because some of the persecution I've seen of astrology hasn't come from the religious side, it's come from the scientists or so-called scientists. But there is a lot of dismissal of astrology, of this assumption that it's rubbish or it could not possibly work because it doesn't fit in to the scientific paradigm. Yeah. And all of this by people who have never actually examined it, who've never actually looked at it, who've never tried it, which is a very unscientific approach when you think of it. But yeah, I'd like to see a lot less of that. I mean, I don't think it's going to happen, you know, and I'm not saying that I want the whole world to become astrologists, that I want them all coming to us en masse. I don't. In fact, Melanie Reinhardt once said to me that she believes astrology has survived and is what it is because we have almost always been marginalized throughout history. There's been a tendency for astrology to be marginalized, and that is somehow part of what we are. And I find it hard to explain why I think she's right, but instinctively I think she is. So I think that is our role. I think we're going to be always going to be something out there, but I'm fine with that. I'm absolutely fine with that. Just yeah.
Any pitfalls that young astrologers or new astrologers are likely to encounter, and how to avoid them?
Well, I know with my own students, when they start off, they always think more is expected of them than there is. I think that the biggest thing I could say to a student astrologer is you have to be in this for the long haul. you'll learn. I mean, you'll spend your life learning, but don't expect to be able to interpret a chart in a week. And also don't think you're expected to know what the person had for breakfast. I find they often feel they should be able to explain every move the person makes and every thought they think, accept the limits of what astrology can do.
What's a typical day in your life like as an astrologer?
It depends on whether it's during the academic year or not. We'll say not, because during the academic year I'm taken up very much with the day job. Normally it involves a lot of checking of email, what is coming overnight. Usually I may have some exercises from some of my faculty students, the distance learning students. There may be some stuff to check out for the Sophia Centre. Like, I look after some of the technical issues there, and maybe preparing for, I teach on the Sky and Psyche module there, so right now I'm starting to prepare for next semester. I'm also preparing for some of the online seminars I'm teaching for the faculty, and I'm turning my PhD into a book, so I'm trying to work on that. That's getting published by the Sophia Centre Press, hopefully next year, but the deadline is creeping towards me at frightening. No, I don't say creeping, it's flying towards me at terrible speed. So
I look forward to reading that. Do you have a title for it, or will it come later?
No, the title of the PhD was An Examination of the Impact of the Internet on Modern Western Astrology, but the book will not be called that. It will focus on the issue of dualism within astrology, which was a large portion of the PhD. But no, Nick Campion, my supervisor, who's also my publisher now, wants me to, he wants the two of us to sit down and come up with a very snappy title, but I haven't got one at the moment.
I'm sure it will come. But that's really exciting. And thank you very much for your time, Frances.
Thank you, Marilena.
Pleasure.